Alright, so we're here checking out your assignment to turn in. Right now I've gone ahead and made the shark body layer invisible, so we can just focus on the tooth. So, right off the bat, the main problem here is that if we look at the tooth directly, from front on, it looks alright. But as soon as we come over here and turn this and look at it from any other angle, you can see it's quite interesting. So let's go ahead and deal with this and fix this so that no matter which angle we're looking at this tooth, it will be a nicely shaped 3D model. Okay. I will actually start with the front view since this is mostly where it needs to be. It's pretty good, but there are a few things that really want to deal with. So I'm going to start out by putting this in X-ray mode. Alright, so I'm going to come up to shading here in the corner and I'm going to hit X-ray. So now I can actually see through the tooth. I can see the other side. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and right click and hold. I'm going to go to vertex mode for this. And we'll start dealing with some of the shaping issues here. First thing you might notice is that these over here are farther from the center line than these over here, so it's got kind of this lopsided thing going on. Alright, so you might want to readjust that so that these are matching a little better. Once you have both sides looking like they're kind of roughly the same distance from the center, then you can just come in and grab all of those, marquee select those, and just maybe pull them in a little bit, alright, so it's not such a dramatic shape change there. Okay. Up here, this line here looks pretty good. It looks like it's a little higher on this side than on the other side, so you might want to bring that down and maybe inwards a little bit to match up just a little better. And here's a neat trick that you can do to even things out. If you just grab these verts over here, hold down shift and marquee select these verts over here, these corresponding ones on the other side of the tooth, you can actually use the scale tool, alright, and you can just scale in one direction here, the Y direction in this case. Okay, it's going to be the green handle. If we just scale that in, you can kind of see what's happening as I'm using the scale tool. What's happening here is these are now on, perfectly even plane with one another, okay? So, rather than one being, down a little further and one being up here, and crazy stuff like that, you can just grab them, use a scale tool, and you can bring them perfectly into line with one another, okay? So that's a really good trick to know. We can grab these and do the same thing so that they are, kind of in an even place. Alright. I'm going to move that over a little bit. Yeah. So this should come over here a little bit more. This center line, has gotten a little off as well, so you'll want to bring that back into line so that you got this nice straight line going on here. You can also use the scale tool for that. If you just grab everything along this center line, make sure you don't accidentally grab anything extra like I just did. Alright, you can use the scale tool, in this case in the Z direction, so this blue handle, to bring everything into a perfect line in the center line there, okay? So, make use of those things if you can. I'm going to do the same thing down here. You can see that this vertex is much higher than its corresponding vertex on the other side of the tooth. Alright, so let's bring those back to a nice even distribution. These guys too, let's bring them back in line with one another. Alright. Really important to keep things really nice and lined up, you can. Move this as well, move that down a little bit. This is another case where we can just grab things on both sides and use that scale tool to even them out. Alright, so we don't have one side going one way and the other going a different way. Alright, so let's move that in just a little bit. Okay, so it gets a little more interesting as we kind of come up here. Okay, so we'll actually look at this in our perspective view now, just a little bit to just kind of figure out what's what here. So what I'm gonna do now is just kind of start to deal with this top of the tooth area. I'm just gonna pull this out a little bit right here. Okay. And this one as well. You can see we're creating some weird flat faces here with this. Alright, so I'm going to pull this out a bit and forward. I'm going to put this over here a little bit. Ooh, wow. Maybe pull it up and, just something like that to start with. Alright. So I think the best thing in this case would probably be to keep these verts on this edge right here, even with these guys on this edge. Okay, so when we go to the front view here, we'll grab these. Okay. And just use that scale tool to bring them in line with one another. Okay. When you're using the scale tool like that, it's really important that you don't grab that center box and just start pulling on that, because you can see not only does it bring things closer together in the Y and Z direction, but you can see here it also brings them pinched together in the X direction as well. And if you pinch them together in all three directions at once, what you're going to have is essentially a bunch of vertices sitting right directly on top of one another, which is not what you want. So make sure you're only grabbing one of these handles at a time when you're using the scale tool for this. Alright, so I'm going to grab these two as well and bring them into line with one another. This is just going to give us a much more organized approach, and it's going to make it a lot easier for us to manipulate this model. Okay, I'm going to grab these two as well, do the same thing. Just going to bring them into line so I can see what I'm working with. And these also, same thing. So you can see now I have a much cleaner outline at the top there, and it's going to be a lot easier for me to figure out where things need to go. So I'm going to grab those top two and use that Y scale tool so that they are sitting even with one another. Okay. It may look uneven at the moment. That's just because this is so far down and this one is so far up that it kind of tricks your eye a little bit. All right. So we really need to just work on evening these guys out. Okay. Just grab corresponding verts on either side. Alright. And just use the scale tool to bring them into a perfectly straight line. Once you have something like that, then you can really start to do shaping. Alright. So I'm gonna bring that in just a little bit. It was probably a little too far on one side. So, just try to keep things as even and symmetrical as you possibly can, okay? So symmetry is really the goal here with this tooth, okay? Maybe I'll move that out a little bit. And it's not going to be perfect, but Give it your best shot. So, alright, you know, we'll say that looks pretty even. Pretty happy with that. It looks shaped nicely. It looks like it's roughly the same on either side. So, you know, that's good enough. But now, of course, even though it looks beautiful from the front, from the side, it's still all over the place. Alright, so we have to go in and deal with the side as well. Alright, so let's see what we've got going on here. Okay, obviously we've got this really wide section in the center, okay? And we've got the outside really wide as well, and this really thin line coming down here. This is really wide also. So let's kind of go into vertex mode here and just see which of these verts correspond with one another, alright? So we can get them kind of in the same place when we're looking at it from the side. So I'll come into the side mode here. I'm going to turn my shading to X-ray again so that I can see everything. It's going to look a little really crazy at first, but that's alright because we can deal with it. We'll fix it. So I've just grabbed two verts that correspond with one another on either side, alright? And I'm going to use that scale tool again to make sure that they're even with one another, okay? I can use this in the X direction and the Y direction now. I mean, those ones are perfectly aligned, it looks like, so that's fine. These ones, however, are not. You can see one is tucked way far in, and one is way out here. Alright, so that's going to need to come together, okay? Now, as you're grabbing these, you can kind of start to move them where you think you want them to wind up at the end, alright? Basically, you know, we've kind of already positioned these where we want them to be in the Y direction and in the Z direction when we dealt with the front here. So really all that's left is to make sure that they're even with one another in the X direction, and then also to move them where we want them to go in the X direction. So really, at this point, we're dealing exclusively with the X direction. Alright, so we're just dealing with the red handle on our move tool and our scale tool. It's all going to be red handle only. Got everything else where it needs to be. So this one, you know, obviously this is going to be moved in a bunch, because this is where our tooth is going to be thin as it comes to this kind of sharp edge here. Alright, so we'll move that in. Don't place it all the way on the center line. You don't want that kind of thing, but you know, you can move it in pretty far. Alright. I'll grab these. I'll even move those in a little bit more. Okay. So this is going to be kind of a process. So, you know, it's going to take a lot of moving stuff around before we get things just the way that we want them to be, okay? So grab these upper edges as well and start dealing with these guys, okay? I'm going to grab this vert right here and its corresponding vert. I'm going to scale those in so that they're, you know, together in the same place. And, you know, I'm going to say that we'll use where the image plane is here, this pink line, as kind of a reference for our center line, alright? So you can see down here, this is just kind of cutting right through the center of the tooth. So we'll just use that as a reference for our center line. I'm going to put these verts right about here, alright? And the ones over here, okay, these two on the other side, I'm going to go ahead and place those about an equal distance away from this pink line as these guys over here. So this will be the front of the tooth, and it's about this far from the center line. This will be the back of the tooth. it's about the same distance from the center line in the opposite direction, okay? So we're going to keep that kind of principle applied with everything to do with this tooth. You know, there should be symmetrical vertices on either side, okay? It's going to take some doing, but we'll get there. Alright, so let's continue. You know, I'm kind of just doing one side of the tooth at a time, really. So I'm not really dealing with the back side yet. So let's just kind of get one side in order, and then we'll deal with the other side as well. So I'm going to grab, pretty much shaped this, this edge around here. So I'm going to start working on the next edge down, which is this one. Okay, that goes along. And I'll start with the outside edge here. Alright. Grabbing both of those verts on either side, those corresponding vertices. I'm going to scale those in the X direction. It looks like they were already pretty well in line with one another. And I'm going to move these way back. Okay. So those may be a little too far back, but yeah, something like that. Okay. It's gonna make some funny shapes happening here, but that's all right because we're gonna fix that too. Next, we're gonna grab this, and it's opposite over here. This one. All right. Now these guys are very far away from each other, as you can see in the X direction, so they're way off. So we definitely need to bring those together. And you know, if you see things are a little bit off here, you can adjust them in other directions as well. All right. Just adjust that. And that, okay? These guys are a little off kilter as well, so just bring those into line a little better. Alright, so for this, we want to bring it out a little bit, okay? Just like that. It should just look like just a little indentation, alright? So we've got this edge up here, and this one should just be pretty much mimicking the edge above it, but just slightly further back, okay? So that's it for that. Kind of done with that one for now. Let's go and move down a little more to this next edge, alright? So I'm going to grab the outside vertices first on this next edge, alright? I'm going to see, are they in line with one another? Yes, they are. So I don't have to deal with the scale tool on this one, but I do have to bring these way back, okay, towards the center line. So we brought those back pretty far. There they are. We'll grab these next ones here. And these ones are not next to one another, okay, so we need to scale them in so that they're in roughly the same place, okay? And then we can move these where we want them to be. And I'm going to put them right about there, okay? Nothing too crazy going on. You know, we can even move this middle one if we want, but you know, it's probably fine right where it is. That looks fine to me. Okay. So let's move down to the next row, which is this one right here. Okay. This one's quite a bit further down, and you can see we've lost that zigzagging shape. All right, there's no more zigzag in the tooth down at the bottom here. It's just a straight line across, which works fine from the front, but from the side we also have just a straight line. So it makes the bottom part of the tooth here completely flat. Alright, so we've got this nice round tooth shape, alright, and then all of a sudden right here it just turns to super flat tooth, okay? So let's go ahead and give that a little more shape. We'll make it a little rounder, all right? I'm just gonna do that by grabbing the center one, and I'm gonna pull it out a little bit. And you know, it's a good idea to look at this from the side to kind of guide where I want this to be. You know, where it kind of makes sense. If this is coming down like this, then right about there kind of leads into that tooth shape, okay? And the same thing with these two. These two also need to come outwards, okay, to help this nice curved shape. All right, and those will be about halfway in between this guy and this guy. All right, this being the outside vertices and this one being the center vertex that we just moved, okay? So once we do that, you can see we have a much rounder shape there to our tooth. It's not quite so blocky. All right, while we're doing this, don't forget to be looking at the tooth from the top as well. Okay, so right now we have two kind of side views set up. Make sure you come in here and click on this little arrow until you get to top here. All right. Make sure that you also have a top view of the tooth. All right. This will really help you be able to see all of your curves that you have going on, and make sure that they're nice and nicely rounded and good stuff going on there. So this, for example, let's take a look and see what that is. This is the outside here. Here's the other corresponding one. All right. So for these, it looks like they're not quite lined up in the X direction. All right, so that's one that I missed for the X direction there. I'm gonna bring that in a little bit. And then this one right here, this one, we'll make sure those are lined up. Line those up. And we'll just move them out just a little bit so that this is just kind of a nice gentle arc from the top, okay? Here as well, I'm going to grab the outsides here. And I'm just going to pull them in just a little bit, okay? Just a smidge. Something like that. So, you know, by the time we're done here, what we're going to have, ideally, is something that looks exactly the same on this side as it does on this side. So you can use what you've already done here as kind of a guide for what the other side should look like when you're done, all right? Oh, wow, okay. So what's happened here is that when I changed my view to top view, you can see it changes in both windows. So how do we stop that? Basically, both windows are set to the same camera right now, and so we'll have to tell Maya we want to look through a different camera rather than just clicking on this to change the direction of the camera that we're using. And to do that, just come to one of these windows. I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to go to Panels, Orthographic, all right, and I'm going to choose Top. So now this window is looking through a camera that's up above the tooth, so looking down from the top. And this one is still looking at it from the side, this one is still looking at it from the front, and this one's still got that perspective view that we can just kind of tumble around in and take a look at, alright? So just, you know, make sure you go in and adjust your cameras that way so you can see what you're doing in every view, okay? The more ways that you look at this, the better it's going to turn out. So I'm going to start working on the other side here, and since we've already kind of talked about the techniques a little bit, I'm going to let you just watch what I'm doing here, and hopefully you can gather what's going on just by what we've already gone over, okay? And you can follow along, alright? So basically, we want this to look like a mirror image of what's on the other side, alright? And I'm going to start with things at the top here and just kind of work my way down, alright? Remember that this pink line here is your center line, okay, or your image map will be your center line, alright? Alright, so you can see pretty quickly I've kind of mimicked what's happening on the side that I've already worked on, and just kind of mirrored it over to the other side. Alright, so now when we take a look at this tooth, not only does it look good from the front, but now it also looks good from the side. Alright, and usually that's enough to also make it look good from the top. So we'll look at the top real quick too. You know, and everything looks pretty symmetrical. Symmetrical. Everything looks pretty good. If you do a full 360, any angle you want to look at this tooth, it looks nice. It looks symmetrical. It looks well shaped. You can see that gum line. You can press the 3 key to go into smooth preview mode if you want. Probably wouldn't smooth out the tooth really, since it's a sharp tooth. It'll be pretty sharp. We'll keep it sharp. So you can see how pretty quickly we were able to really fix that shape from many different angles. All right. So take some time to work on this and work on your shaping. All right, so that no matter what angle you're looking at this tooth from, it looks really great. Okay. Let's take a look at the shark body now and see what we've got going on there. All right, I'm gonna go to object mode here. And you know, I'm gonna put the tooth on a layer right now as well. Okay, I'm just going to select the tooth, and I'm going to come over here to create a new layer and assign selected objects. It's this little button right here. Looks like a little mat with a ball and a little light on it. Okay, just click on that with my tooth selected. And now I have this new layer that pops up called layer 1. I'm going to double click on that layer 1, and I can just come up here and give it a name. I'm going to call it tooth. And I'm just going to hit save. So now that I've done that, I can now make my tooth layer invisible just by clicking on this V. So I don't have that tooth intersecting my shark when I'm looking at it right now. Okay. So I've got my shark body here. I'm going to click on it, take a look. Right now it's in smooth preview mode. Let's look at it, just how it regularly is, and we'll just hit the 1 key to change it out of smooth preview mode. Alright, and we'll take a closer look at Sharky here and see how we're doing as far as all the little fins and other fun stuff is concerned. So, you know, see, added some little eyebrows there to Sharky. The geometry looks really good, so, you know, good job on that. The flow is nice. The one thing I'd say you might want to work on your shaping with just a little bit is just right here as it comes down into the nose. You can see we're getting kind of these jaggy lines that are leading into the brow here. You may want to pull some of these up a little bit, okay? And take some of these, for example, and just pull them down and scale them inwards in the Z direction, alright? To round this shape out, same thing here, we'll want to grab those and just round that out just by shaping it just a little bit. We can grab these and pull them up a bit. You know, we really just want to keep a pretty round shape going for Sharky, okay? And you know, that might be a little intense rounding for the face there, because we did bring these brows out pretty far. I might bring these in just a little bit, okay? So we still got brows, but they're not quite so in your face. And I'd bring these in just a bit as well. Alright, you can even bring them up a little if you want, just to keep things a little more rounded out. Bring those out. So again, you know, we can make use of all of our different views here. Alright. I'm going to turn off X-ray. And you can kind of see how we've got this kind of shape going on at the top of Sharky here, where it's kind of rounded off. But along here, we've got these flat surfaces, alright, where we don't have this nice smooth round curve continuing. Okay, so it's coming around, and then all of a sudden we get this really flat line and a sudden sharp turn and another flat line before it rounds out. So something like that, really, you would want to pull these up so that rather than having this flat line thing going on, you have this gradual curve, okay? It's going to really help improve the shape of Sharky and make him look a lot more natural, okay? So just pull some of these things up until you're happy with the way that it looks from the front, okay? Then you should also make sure you check things from other angles, of course. You can't just make things look good from the front and then just leave it there. So look at things from the side. You know, does it look okay from the side? Does it look crazy from the side? You know, you have to kind of take a look at these kinds of things and make sure that everything still flows nicely. Alright? So here, for example, we have kind of this area where the shark body comes up. This sort of pointy at this point because these guys are a lot further down than the vertex in the center there. So, you know, just make sure, take a look at the side here and go, you know, is this following a natural smooth curve? You know, are things sticking out in places? How is this progressing? Just try to pull things until they feel like they're curving naturally. Alright? Pull that up too. So, you know, this shaping that we're doing right now has mostly to do with these edge loops right here. I'm going to show you here. With this edge loop, okay, that's going along, and the one on the opposite side here too. So this mainly has to do with these, just rounding them out a little more and using them to help get that rounded shark shape in there, okay? So, you know, again, just look at it from the top as well. Does it look nice from the top? Double check these kinds of things. I'll take off X-ray for this as well. You can see things get a little blocky over here for the brow, but that's alright because we really wanted to pronounce that. Everything else looks like it's following the shape of the body pretty well. So good job there. And that's it, you know, and I think really after working on the tooth and just addressing these two edge loops here just a little bit, you're good to go and you're ready to continue with Sharky and go on to UV mapping, okay? So let me know if you have any questions about anything that we went over today. Thanks for watching and happy modeling.